Yo! Good news! One of my favorite videos on all of YouTube that does, like, media analysis videos and debunks of right-wing media analysis grifters, Pillar of Garbage has uploaded a new video. Pillar of Garbage has a criminally low sub count, currently sitting 5,000 subs short of me right now. This motherfucker deserves like 1 million+ subs. Like, the quality of the videos, the amount of introspection and quality of the general, like, media analysis that he does deserves way more subs than what he's got right now. Like, this is a criminally underrated channel. Every new sub I can send their way is, like, worth it. So go subscribe, please. Here's a link to Pillar of Garbage's channel. Go subscribe. You guys are about to see why you should and why you want to go subscribe. Please leave a like on the video that we're watching. There'll be a link in the description to it as well when this goes up on YouTube. Please go send some support and please go sub and, hell, even comment that I sent you. It helps to boost the channel and the algorithm. This guy makes some fantastic content, and he just put out a new video on Nerdrotic, one of the most obnoxious and still holding on to a certain level of relevance conservative grifters out there. And he's part of, like, the Neckbeard gang. He's friends with, like, Mahler and Geeks and Gamers and the Quartering and that sphere, right? The, like, anti-woke, like, new media is all garbage and only classic film before things got woke is good. Anyway, he makes really good responses to those videos. Critical Drinker as well, he's quite known for responding to. And he's very good at, like, just taking apart the complete hypocrisy of these grifters in the most spectacular ways possible. No doubt we're not going to be able to watch all of this because I tend to pause a lot and elaborate on what's being said. And, yeah, you're not getting a Hassan-style reaction where I just sit here silently. It's not how I do things. So, unfortunately, as I mentioned before, chances are we aren't going to be able to react to the whole thing on stream. I'm just going to pause it too much for that. So, let's get started on this. I'm excited to see what's happening, what's going on with Nerdrotic, what response Pillar of Garbage has for him, because I think this is his first response to Nerdrotic. He's responded to Critical Drinker, he's responded to Geeks and Gamers, I believe. This is his first time responding to this guy. Dipping, because no spoilerinos, for Blue Beetle. I haven't seen this movie. I don't know if I will see it, but maybe I will. Who knows?
For Blue Beetle. Not long ago, the YouTube channel Nerdrotic Daily uploaded a video titled Let's Taco About Blue Beetle, whose thumbnail you're seeing now.
Oh god, that video went so viral. The thumbnail went viral in the lefty sphere as well, but it did really well on YouTube.
Now, that's Jola Maridueña as Jaime Reyes, alongside Consuela from Family Guy, a taco, or, you know, a chalupa, and a big capitalized yikes. People didn't like that video very much.
Beetle, and they are so honestly, blatantly racist.
Just look at this fuck-ass thumbnail. Look at it, okay?
This actually is a pretty, like, good point to what I was talking about in my earlier segment, by the way, about how, like, Gen Z, this, like, new generation of Gen Z that fell down the red pill pipeline is growing up and out of the, like, conservative politics, and it's starting to become more popular to call out the cringe circle jerk fest of conservative anti-woke grift content. Like, it's becoming more popular to shit on this type of content and make fun of it than it is to make it and consume it.
This guy straight up called us sneaky? Nah, this isn't criticism of a movie. This is hating on us as a people. This is just so blatant. Oh my goodness, bro.
So, let's talk about Nerdrotic, shall we? Nerdrotic is the channel and persona of this guy, Gary. If you've spent much time on the comic book or superhero movie side of YouTube, or if you've seen many videos on this platform pushing back against wokeness, the message, or Disney's quest to undermine masculinity or whatever, you'll be familiar with Nerdrotic, or at least you'll have seen his influence. Nerdrotic's content tends to fall into one of two categories. His main channel output is this stuff.
The crazy thing is, a guy like this would be seen as a complete loser, and is seen as a complete loser by broader society, but the internet has afforded the ability for a guy with a neck beard, and this is literally definitionally a neck beard, and just a ridiculous amount of nerd regalia, who is also a bigoted piece of shit who hates women and gatekeeps his hobby. This is the most unlikable form of nerd stereotype that exists. But the internet allows for someone who would otherwise be the biggest failure of all humans that can exist. He's also 50 years old, yes. That would be the biggest failure of all humans that could exist. The internet allows these basement goblin neat weirdos to actually have some level of, like, success and likability to other people just like them. Yeah, this guy's in his 50s. Yeah, Nerdrotic is in his 50s. If you look at him long enough, you can tell. Yeah.
Videos which recap the commercial performance and critical reception of recent popular films and shows, sometimes accurately, sometimes less so, primarily in order to build, maintain, and monetize those above anti-woke narratives. His other main impact lies with the podcast he runs, Friday Night Tights, which gathers together the Avengers of YouTube media literacy on a weekly basis.
Fuck. Shadiversity. Comics X Division, don't know that guy. RK Outpost, this guy's another quartering clone. The Heels vs. Babyface, the guy that said fucking pronouns! Nerdrotic. I like the Lord of the Rings background. I assume this is them complaining about Rings of Power. Mauler. I don't know who Disparu is. And then they're 2 token anti-woke pick-me girls. Okay. And whoever this guy is. 1/4 Black Garrett. Ah, the joke is that this guy is 1/4 black because I guess he says so. And he's just a white guy, so his name is 1/4 Black Garrett. Nice. Very cool.
A roster ranging from your garden variety blatant bigots to nitpickers and negativity mills, still informed by an opposition to Hollywood's wokeness to the message, but less obviously. The taco video is from this latter category, an edited down segment of these titans of intellect discussing DC's recent Blue Beetle.
Remember, guys, I still laugh uproariously at the fact that this guy has had several meltdowns over me calling him, like, right-wing and saying that he's an anti-woke YouTuber. Not even for me saying he's alt-right, not even me saying he's a Nazi or something, just for me saying that he is an anti-woke, he's one of those right-wing anti-woke YouTubers. He disagrees with that evaluation of his content. Meanwhile, this is where he spends his time, and the type of, like, his takes are indistinguishable from theirs. There's a reason why he's on this show, agreeing with them, complaining about insert new media that everyone hates because it's woke. In this case, it's Rings of Power.
Discussing DC's recent Blue Beetle film. But why did this happen? Why is the comment section under that video filled with revulsion, rather than the typical cheerleading? Why did this video have that wider impact? And what can that tell us about Nerdrotic's role in the reactionary content ecosystem? Again, let's talk about it, shall we?
Let's talk about it.
The first thing to talk about should probably be the first thing you see with this video, the thumbnail. So, the thumbnail. It's bad. Is it outright racist, or is it just crude and insensitive? Well, the overall judgment's not really my call to make, but what I can do is break down what's wrong with it. Here's the thing. Sometimes stereotypes don't come from nowhere, especially, cuisine-related ones. I'm British. I drink a lot of tea. I love a full English every now and then.
Like, yeah, we have lots of, like, implicit, like, biases that are somewhat racist, right? Like, as an American, like, I get hungry for Mexican food if I hear someone speaking Spanish. That's just what happens when you're American. Your mouth starts to water. It's like a Pavlov's bell response. And is that racist? Maybe a little bit. But, it's just one of those implicit biases that that you tend to have.
A lot of Parisians buy baguettes and drink wine.
That's
a lot of
actually
Germans
true, though.
like currywurst or kebabs. A lot of Mexicans and Mexican Americans eat tacos.
Does every single aspect of his life have to be tacos?
Everybody
Literally
likes
in the
tacos.
beginning, he walks in, he's getting back from college. They're like, let's go get tacos.
The video sees Nerdrotic's guests incredulous at the fact that Jaime and his family go for tacos, and suggesting that the film having the Reyes family participate in one of their culture's more visible culinary stereotypes is offensive and reductive. But having a member of a certain culture eat a food that's common within that culture...
I like that it's all a bunch of white people saying that it's racist for Mexicans to eat tacos, I guess.
isn't actually a racism. If it's laughable that Blue Beetle has Mexican Americans eat tacos, then it's laughable whenever American characters get hot dogs at a ball game, and it's laughable whenever a French character pops a cork. It's not always wrong to use those parts of a culture which have become stereotyped. What's wrong is pre-projecting that stereotype on, or reducing the person or culture to it. And that's what we're seeing here. In the video, in which the panel makes an absolute mountain out of an incredibly short scene, in the way Ryan Kinnell refers to the film's engagement with Latino culture as taco referencing,
just constantly making fucking taco references with the family.
and obviously in that thumbnail.
Well, something you must remember as well, obviously, I'm not saying this to, Pillar of Garbage, he knows. I'm saying this to the audience. The viewers of the content that these people make do not watch the content that they're talking about. They don't watch the movies, they don't watch the shows, they don't play the games, they don't read the comics. They don't consume the media being critiqued. They consume critiques of the media being critiqued, and that is their substitute for it. For a very long time, Mahler has been the go-to substitute for a lot of like anti-woke types for the Star Wars sequels. How many times, Hypers in chat, if you've seen someone unironically say, don't even watch the Star Wars sequels or any new Star Wars project, just watch Mahler's 12-hour review of The Force Awakens. And you'll know why you shouldn't watch the new Star Wars movies. Don't give them a try. Here's a link to the Mahler video. Just watch that. I've seen countless people make this argument in YouTube comments and replies, on Reddit, on Twitter, all over the... Is it actually 12 hours? Let's find out. Mahler Star Wars review. His Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania video was 6 hours long. His Rise of Skywalker one was 2 hours long, so pretty short for a video from him. Part 1 of his critique of The Last Jedi is 1 hour and 22 minutes long. That's just part 1. Part 2 of The Force Awakens critique is 2 hours and 19 minutes, and that's part 2. Part 2 of The Last Jedi critique is 1 hour 48 minutes. I've had these videos recommended me countless times as a as like an attempt to like explain why you shouldn't watch the new Star Wars media and instead watch Mahler's video and get your opinion from the YouTuber that you're supposed to get your opinion from. Mahler still hasn't completed his TFA critique and claims that it will altogether be over 15 hours long. Yeah. One of these days I'd like to like watch these in modern time as an adult, because when I watched these, like the first one for the like Rise of Skywalker, or not Rise of Skywalker, the Force Awakens back in the day, it was, you know, a long time ago. It was like back when they came out. It was years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago maybe. And I was like a shithead, like chuddy teenager. Watching them now would be interesting. I'm curious how much of the critique is actual critique and how much of it is just like nitpick and how much of it is anti-woke shit. Because like, it can't be like hours and hours of nonstop anti-woke, right? It like he has to at least spend most of the time attempting to critique things, and he claims he makes objective critiques too, and that none of his critiques are subjective or opinion-based. So, I don't know.
In Blue Beetle, the
like, imagine claiming you're like a good media reviewer and saying that all of your critiques are objective and non-subjective.
Mexican-American family enjoys tacos, but that is one small cultural characteristic among many. The uncle enjoys El Chapulín Colorado, the classic superhero parody show Mexico produced in the 70s. The father brought the family to America before working like a dog to claw together a life. Revolution and civil unrest have left scars still visible in the older generation. The grandmother lights candles, prays at the domicile's home altar. This isn't an intensive survey of modern Mexican-American family life, but it's clearly not just tacos and salsa, is it? As we'll see, the video looks at this tableau and more or less just pulls out the tacos, and the thumbnail compresses all this even further, representing the film by placing Jolo's face not against Carapax's, the Scarab, Jenny Cords, but against tacos, and against Family Guy's famously one-note Consuela, to whom a befuddled-looking picture of Jaime is implicitly compared, a facile comparison riffing on nasty tropes. Jaime is stereotyped, then, turned into a super-thin cultural signifier, a signifier laughed at, but not by...
Like, the thumbnail of that video alone is what got so much critique, is because of how obviously racist it is to have a thumbnail with Mexican character, taco, and then Consuela from fucking Family Guy. The absurdity of the thumbnail coming from an anti-woke YouTuber in a time where like people are starting to really woke up to how cringe anti-woke content is and how like degenerately, shamelessly like desperate it is just to be like content fuel for the YouTube fire. People just immediately saw through the grift and the mask on that one. There was no mask. They just didn't put on the mask for that video, and people saw it and were like, what the fuck?
The film by this thumbnail. If you think this is an uncharitable interpretation, let me contextualize it by showing you the times this channel's done that before.
Jesus.
Those aren't great, are they?
They one of their favorite things is like the whole like things are going broke thing. No bueno, Blue Beetle bombs at the box office, Aquaman 2 and Hot Water, and they have like the thumbnail of the character holding a need money sign. They like to they do this with a lot of like their thumbnails. They'll show like the main character of a show or movie that they don't like, holding a need money sign. Why is there is that Amber Heard? Why is Amber? Oh, because Aquaman 2, I guess. I don't like the same image.
Those aren't great, are they? And by the way, if seeing the wider pattern of Nerdrotic's channel did change your mind, make all this seem less innocent and more mean-spirited, hang on.
God, it really is like the tabloid newspaper equivalent, right? For those that don't know, Henry Cavill has become like the alt-right, the internet alt-right's like new guy, which is like really bizarre. But I guess it's because he's like big white guy who's muscular in games and builds PCs, so they're like, he must be a conservative. They also have tied the idea of like caring about source material being adapted with conservatism. So I guess they see Henry Cavill wanting the Witcher show to stick to source material as meaning that he's anti-woke, because wokeness is when you go against the source material in any way whatsoever, from like changing the story fundamentally, like killing off a character who's alive in the fucking story originally. Why the fuck did they do that? To like a character just being a different race than in the original source material, because who cares about that? That's not like the only case in which I understood people being upset about race swapping in a piece of media. The only case where to this day, and I don't even agree with it because of circumstance, but if it wasn't because of the circumstance, I would agree with the anger about the race swapping, is Roland in the Dark Tower movie being black. And the only reason for this, and I'm not upset with it for a reason, but the reason why I would be upset with it was if it was an actual adaptation of the books. It wasn't, though. It was a sequel where the loop gets reset. Roland's different, Jake's different, Eddie and Detta aren't there. It's a different story. The Man in Black they go on a different adventure, pretty much. It's a different story. It wasn't perfect, but it was its own thing, so it's like, okay, sure. However, if they were trying to adapt the original story and they made Roland black, it would kind of fuck up a pretty serious storyline from the book that is centered around racism. Like it's literally a commentary on racism, and it involves Detta being black and Roland being white. So I don't know how you'd pull that off if you like adapted the Dark Tower books and made Roland white, because it just wouldn't work at all whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. At all. Like, you literally couldn't make that story plot line at all work. But it wasn't a direct adaptation, so I'm not mad about it. But if they did directly adapt it and they race swapped there, that would be the one case where I'd be a little upset about it, because it's the one case that I can think of where a character's race in a non-racist way is actually relevant to the story. That's the only case that I can think of where race is like that relevant, like for where like an originally white character getting race swapped could be seen as detrimental to the original story.
On to that thought. It's an important one. So that's the thumbnail. But what's wrong with the video itself? Well, how much time do you have? A full combing through of everything here is really what I want to do. I'm more interested in the why and the how than the what today, but let's at least establish the types of problem here. First, a couple of claims about what actually happens in the film are thrown out, which are plain wrong. Discussing the bus slicing scene from the trailers, Nerdrotic, Heel vs. Babyface, and Quarter Black Garrett say that shield's cool, but criticize the film for never having Jaime use it again.
Testing its shield thing.
Yeah, they wanted to show you things which they wouldn't use in the film.
Later on, when they were particularly useful. You know, that probably would have been very useful with the...
So I imagine a lot of this video is just going to be calling out direct, inarguable lies from these guys about them just saying a thing in the movie does or doesn't happen when it, like, did or didn't happen, but, like, vice versa. Like, they say a thing happened, it objectively didn't in the movie. Because, like, saying a thing happened is not a subjective opinion. Like, it's a statement about did a thing happen or not. And oftentimes they just outright lie. One of the best ones is actually a call out from one of Pillar of Garbage's videos against Critical Drinker, who where he calls out numerous things Critical Drinker does. You could argue it's for copyright, but I suggest it serves two purposes, that and to make the movies he responds to look worse. Critical Drinker, when showing clips of any movie he responds to, turns down the saturation. Like, He turns down the saturation to make the movie seem kind of colorless and you know, washed out and kind of not fun to look at, right? This both helps with copyright, but also psychologically gives off the impression of a poorly made movie. When a movie looks pretty to look at, and all you're seeing of the movie really is visual, like bits, you're going to think positively of the movie. If someone has an excuse to make the movie physically look worse in the bits that you are able to be exposed to, then you're going to have a more negative opinion of the movie. He does this quite frequently on top of dishonestly editing certain clips from movies and shows. Notably, I know a really good example was one that Pillar of Garbage calls out. I haven't seen the movie itself yet, but I know it's very well liked. It's called Glass Onion. And, like, directly, Critical Drinker just lies about a thing that happens in the movie. By, like, he shows the scene saying, "This makes no sense. Look at this scene." But the scene's edited to make it make no sense. And then Pillar of Garbage shows the unedited scene and the bit that Critical Drinker edited out. And it makes sense when you see the bit that Critical Drinker purposefully and knowingly edited out. So it's like, that's the level of dishonesty these guys will operate on and how confident they are their audiences do not watch the content they criticize.
That's my favorite trope in Hollywood movies these days. Showing shit that would be useful and then never using it again.
Defending post. Quick, go find her. Engaging threat.
Definitive lie. Just a simple definitive lie. And, you know, Pillar of Garbage can call this out, but realistically for these guys, this lie will just never actually be called out to the majority of the audience. Like, most people will watch the video or the stream, hear what they say, hear the lies, take them at face value, and never watch a video that debunks them, and certainly never watch the movie. Because they don't need to watch the movie. Their opinion on it has been made by a YouTuber.
Engage.
What you're seeing now, by the way, is Jaime using it again. Garrett also recalls this moment.
And then they walk into their house and she's like, "That's where Mama told us how to make salsa."
When I started writing this video, I didn't remember that happening, but Blue Beetle wasn't on streaming, so I couldn't check. It's out now though, so I had a look, and I found the moment he's talking about, but he got it a little wrong.
Remember how Mom taught us salsa right there on the front porch?
You were always
salsa dancing.
Yeah, no, I still think you don't know how to dance salsa.
Dancing the salsa? Huh? But salsa is food, not dance. But I'm less interested in that mistake than I am in the flattening.
One of my favorite things was watching, I wanted to see how these guys got their opinion on Rings of Power. Because I grew up on Lord of the Rings, okay? I don't remember when I hadn't seen and loved Lord of the Rings because I was so young when I got into it. So, you know, my standards are quite high for any type of new Tolkien media, regardless of whether it's an adaptation or fan fiction or whatever. I've got high standards for it as far as quality goes. Though I'm also not under this deranged, like, opinion that any form of new, like, media made around media that I like ruins the old media. Because the way that people talk about it is, whether you like Rings of Power or not, Rings of Power's quality somehow ruins for them the old Lord of the Rings movies. And it's like, what how's this ruin the books or the movies for you? How? It's just its own show. Regardless, though, I watched their coverage of, like, because they reacted to the movie, or to the episodes of Rings of Power as they came out, and I wanted to see their live reactions to see, like, what were they criticizing in the moment, what was popping out at them. They spent not 90%, I'd say 80% of the time talking over the show. Mostly making fun of insert thing they see as woke. If like, whenever there's a non-white person on screen, it, like, would lead to several moments of talking about it over the show. And then they would immediately respond with, "Wait, what's going on? Why are they doing this thing?" Because they talked over the explanation and the conversation the characters had about why they're doing the thing. And so it'll be like an awesome battle scene. They'll be like, "I guess the fight scene is cool, but we have no idea why this is happening." It's like, you just talked over the scene where they talked about why this fight is happening because there was a black person on screen and you guys felt the need to talk about it for 5 minutes, making weird jokes. The worst kind of friend to watch movies with? That is true. It was basically an entire Discord call of the worst friend to watch a movie or show with.
Of meaning it speaks to. Let's put that moment into context. Blue Beetle says
the best friend to watch a movie or show with, though, is one that can, like, naturally detect downtime in a movie where there's going to be, like, 10 seconds of total silence where it's safe to make an observational comment and then immediately go back to silence. Like, nod in agreement to the comment and then immediately back to watching the movie. but they know when the time is. They're not talking over anything important. That is the best friend to watch media with. Like, watching something in total silence with a friend, not as fun. Watching something with a friend that talks over and doesn't pay attention, misery. That perfect middle ground, though, is ideal.
Palmyra City is a place in flux. It's two cities, really. The homes, the lived-in, real places like those we see in Jaime's Ends, Palmyra Keys, and the towering, neon-lit, ultra-modern, anonymous skyscrapers that surround cord industries. And more, that first city is
interesting setting.
After learning that his family's being forced to leave their childhood home, gentrification's a bitch, Jaime and his sister reminisce about their past. The past that's
any type of commentary on gentrification is seen as woke. You're not allowed to make commentary that, like, talks about, like, people who have it worse than, like, insert average straight white American dude. Like, you're not allowed to make commentary about life is hard for insert group that isn't straight white American dude. Otherwise, it's seen as virtue signaling and woke.
It's being uprooted to build more pointless
Oh yeah, pausing to joke is good, I think, but, like, it depends on how long the pauses last, because sometimes it's like, okay, we need to get back to it now.
The past that simultaneously...
I like to pause and talk, but when you're in a big group, it can end up turning into a long stun lock.
No match for the looming corporate real estate takeover, and is
like
infinitely more meaningful than anything it'll produce.
Do you remember your 21st birthday?
Oh, I remember the first half. Oh, I can't believe we're losing this place.
All this is reduced to Garrett's complaint that the Hispanic cultural trappings of Blue Beetle are shallow because it's all eating tacos and making salsa. Just referencing Mexican food. That's all that's going on here. Good job, guys. But it's not just the details of the film the guests are off base on. There's also the way an unduly negative picture of the film is created by a general lack of knowledge about Blue Beetle on the part of the guests. We hear complaints like these.
I saw a lot of similarities between, like, the Tony Stark.
I'd never heard of Blue Beetle before this movie got announced. All right, I'm like a little bit into comics. I'm not one of these people who like falsely claims they're a huge comics nerd that just talks about this shit for a living. But you know, I'll throw on a video that talks about some cool comic lore, like an obscure like Spider-Man comic where he goes crazy and kills everyone, like one of those one-off comics that's like an alternate story. I always love those like videos. They're interesting. I'd never heard of Blue Beetle prior to this movie coming out, or getting announced. I'd never heard of Blue Beetle. And I've never seen Young Justice. I feel like a lot of the people in this call pretending like they were some like OG Blue Beetle fans from the comics, now so upset about his representation in the movie, are probably full of shit. I don't feel like Blue Beetle was a big enough comic character for so many of these guys to unanimously be able to claim that they were some like OG fans feeling ripped off by the movie. I've heard a lot of people claim that, and I just don't feel like Blue Beetle was selling enough comics for that many people to be able to truthfully claim that.
Tech,
No hate to Blue Beetle. I'm sure Blue Beetle in the comics is great, but like, I hadn't heard of Blue Beetle.
That he gave to Peter Parker. The voice talking in the suit again reminded me of the personality inside the Iron Man suit, and the similarity of like, oh, Spider-Man doesn't kill, Blue Beetle doesn't kill,
but everybody else does.
But
that's Marvel. We're talking DC. Wouldn't a more comparable thing be Batman? Because like Batman exists in the same universe as Blue Beetle and also has those similarities in common of advanced tech, doesn't kill. Have you forgotten what universe you're talking about again?
Problem here is that the Jaime iteration of Blue Beetle has had the nanotech suit, the disembodied voice, since the get-go, like over 15 years back, since well before Friday or Jarvis, and well before nanotech weapons Iron Man. This isn't shameless.
Oh, okay, there you go. An example of them demonstrating that they're not OG comic Blue Beetle fans, because it turns out Blue Beetle has always had the tech shit. Cool.
Cookie cutter copycatting, it is instead that holy grail of comic book fandom.
Don't you love it when I make a point about like how these conservative grifters don't watch or consume the media they talk about and then they demonstrate that exact fact? Don't you love when I say a thing about conservative content creator and then seconds later they prove that true? Like with their own actions?
Accuracy in adaptation. Look, maybe during the process of putting together Blue Beetle, the filmmakers were inspired by these more recent Marvel examples of Jaime-style tech, but this isn't copying them, it's copying those. You know, the comics. Lack of source material knowledge isn't a problem by itself, of course, but here, that lack of knowledge means this process of adaptation is framed as an issue. The whole picture isn't being given, and that's a little misleading, isn't it?
Alright, guys, I'm gonna give you my hot take here that I think people are gonna get mad about. People complaining about modern movie superhero suits sometimes having nanotech type, like, sort of forming around the person in order to like suit up. People complaining about that are basically doing the same type of complaining as the people who back in 2016 said FPS games need to go back to boots on the ground, and like dick rode the fuck out of Battlefield 1 because of this weird idea that like any game that involves like boosts or like wall running or any type of advanced movement is bad. But now everybody is like, advanced movement in games is cool, Apex Legends is cool, Titanfall is cool, and like the opinion on boots in the ground gameplay has changed entirely. Now no one likes Fortnite or PUBG or like CS or like insert boots in the ground FPS game. The opinion has flipped totally back around. It became popular to hate advanced movement shooters, and then so everyone wanted like Tarkov, PUBG, Fortnite, like boots in the ground type shooters. Those stopped being popular and started becoming popular to hate those, and so now we're like back. I don't know, we're kind of moving back into the era of like people liking movement shooters again. In large part, you can see it with Fortnite adapting by adding no build mode, or you've got climbing and sliding, because Fortnite even recognized to maintain popularity, they needed to expand the movement mechanics and get more into modern, like the current modern standard of what shooters should be, which people expect like decent movement. They expect sliding and rolling and like wall running and shit.
The result is an unfairly negative impression of the film, which, as we'll see, is a bit of a running trend. Another trend which goes well beyond comic book knowledge.
My point is, the criticism that too many superhero suits materialize onto the heroes in these movies is the most nothing burger criticism ever. Simply observing a thing happens a lot in these movies and you are quote-unquote tired of it is not really much of a criticism. It feels very hollow and empty, and it feels like one of those circle jerk re-repeated criticisms that someone heard from a YouTuber or a tweet repeated because they wanted to sound cool and unique, and then it just kept getting repeated over and 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 over again, till somehow we've all decided that modern Marvel heroes put on their suits with nanotech armor and it's like we don't like it anymore is actually a substantive critique. Like, people treat that like a real substantive critique, an example of how the MCU has fallen. It's just another example of like shallow, baseless attempts at doing media criticism that are all part of a circle jerky trend online that'll disappear in 2 years and everyone will have the opposite opinion soon.
Is the Friday Night Tights crew being confidently inaccurate. Here, that trend extends into Latino culture. We kind of brushed up against this when talking about that thumbnail, but let's have a proper look at it here. Various elements of Blue Beetle are lampooned by the gang as playing into simplistic Latino stereotypes. The film written and directed by Latinos, is the racist party here, actually.
I have a lot of thoughts and feelings on Blue Beetle, most of which, yeah, was just the unnecessary gratuitous racism.
They're all caricatures.
The name of his truck is Taco. Does every single
They really do love pretending like they're somehow the woke ones. This was very popular during the Gamergate era. Oh god, listen. Chris Raygun, if you see this, I'm sorry I had to show this. I'm so sorry. But I have to use it as an example of what like the takes were back in the Gamergate era, okay? There's a line that kind of sticks in my head from one of Chris Raygun's old, like, social justice warrior the musical videos, the Come Be PC one. He finds these videos very cringe now. I'm pretty sure he's taken down this one because he objects to it so much. This is literally a re-upload. I can't find it on his channel. Like, he since does not agree with this so much that he's taken the video down.
Your skin. Come join me in gender studies. Come get a useless degree. And when you make garbage money, take no responsibility. Come be PC. Come be PC. Things are so.
Oh no, it wasn't this one. Hold on, you're right. No, it wasn't this one. Obviously you've got the framing of like, yeah, the lefties are the crazy racists one. No, it was oh, where is it? Yeah, this is also a re-upload. He's taken this one down too. You can probably imagine why based on the general message of this one. Xan burning the Chris Ray gun bridge. I'm not burning the bridge, okay? Listen, I think it's just a good example. These videos were mega viral, like millions upon millions upon millions of views, like shared around by like everybody at my school when they were coming out. Like they were being posted on, like, hey, check this thing is such a banger. Like posted on like my classmates' Snapchat stories when I was in high school. These videos had a massive cultural impact. And so I think it's like relevant when you like look back at like previous eras of politics online to look at like the thought process doesn't change, the wrapping paper does. Obviously, Chris has grown out of this way of thinking that kind of informed this video, but this is a parody of The Times They Are A-Changin' by Bob Dylan. Only it's about how like the left is becoming the crazy ones. And so when you hear the conservatives try to frame lefties as being the true racists, it's this mindset that they're trying to appeal to.
Come gather round skeptics wherever you roam.
Skeptic was a title of pride back then.
Because it seems ideology's taking its toll now that diverse opinions give way to control.
Get out of here! I need your muscle over here!
And the words that we are exchanging.
Chris is a good singer. There's literally no denying it. Chris is a damn good singer.
Imply we should all simply stick to our roles, but the times they are a-changing. White protesters speaking with pride on behalf of people whose pigment is used to distract from the unbelievably ironic fact. These righteous protesters are racists. If you look in that mirror, you won't like what looks back, 'cause the times they are a-changing.
So the idea behind it is that it's these SJW white protesters telling non-white people what's best for them. That's what the SJWs are. There was this idea that actually the majority of non-white, gay, like, you know, the minority groups the left advocates for do not agree with the SJWs, and the SJWs are speaking over them and for them, and they're the true racists. And that it's the left and the woke people's representations of these groups that are actually truly racist, like what these grifters that we're, you know, covering in the Pillar of Garbage video are claiming with the Blue Beetle movie actually itself being racist, like in some weird roundabout gotcha liberals way. And so that this like talking point, the idea that the left are the true racists by acknowledging racism or engaging in any form of like cultural representation is nothing new. It goes back to like viral videos that were big during the Gamergate era. It's the same tired arguments rewrapped in new wrapping paper and being used in a different context with a different like generation of young people getting radicalized online.
Aspect of his life have to be tacos.
George Lopez, in my opinion, had some of the most like cringy, racist lines in the whole movie.
It's laughable that the Reyes family get tacos upon Jaime's return. Ditto with the uncle's taco van nicknaming. The family are caricatures, yada yada yada. And look, obviously I can't comment on whether or not this is an accurate reflection of US Latino culture, but I can direct you to a video made by people who are a bit more qualified.
Dude, can you imagine if these people's logic like held up? Like, could you imagine being black and it being racist to eat fried chicken? Couldn't be me, dude. I would literally die if I couldn't eat fried chicken. If I would be called racist for it. Like, dude, it's literally like, ah, yes, insert stereotype. If it happens, then it's racist. But it's even less so than that, because in this case, it's a cultural food. It's not even like, ah, yes, if like you show a scene in a movie where an Asian person gets into a car accident driving, then it's racist. That's the level of like gotcha liberals these people will operate on. Like, ah, yes, in this movie, the Native American person has a dream catcher up in the background. Kinda racist, huh? Like, what? Dude, when you've gotten so desperate to own the lefties that you're trying to find ways to be the woke one and the lefties to be the racist one because of weird nitpicks you've made. It's like, imagine if we operated on this like thought process. Uh-oh, guys. I'm kind of craving a little, like a hot dog or a burger or something. Oh, shit. Am I being white stereotyped? Oh, no. Fuck, if I eat a burger, I'm being the oh, fuck. Hot dogs? It's racist for me to eat hot dogs. I'm playing into stereotypes about white people. Can you imagine carrying this, like, thought process into the real world? Unironically. These people are, like, desperately nitpicking at the most bizarre, random, little tiny things to try to claim they're somehow the woke ones, but also demonizing wokeness. This thought process does not hold up to much scrutiny, which is why a lot of people fall out of it, including Chris Raygun, who, that video that I showed you, that video clip, was a re-upload by someone. He took that video down, both the music videos I showed, because that thought process is something that even people who will put the effort in to do a baller, banger-ass music cover and animation and edited video, even they years later look back at it as like a kind of simplistic and cringe thought process and maybe don't stand by it as much as they did when they made it. Like, people, upon further introspection, tend to fall out of this thought process. That's the big, like, silver lining to all of this, is that these arguments are very, very flimsy. It's why it's so satisfying to watch someone like Pillar of Garbage dismantle them. And it's why so many people in the long run end up falling out of this type of content, even if it does well in the short term. Nerdrotic is going to be where No Bullshit is now in a year or two. You know where No Bullshit is? No Bullshit was the original of these guys. He was literally unassailable with his massively, like, meteoric growth back in 2016 and 2017. Do you want to know where No Bullshit is? After having to rebrand to save his channel, after getting destroyed in numerous debates, and his popularity slowly waning. Gone. Slow decline for his channel. He used to have over 800,000 subs, I believe. He lost tons after getting destroyed in debates back to back to back. So, yeah, they'll all be where No Bullshit is now eventually. No Bullshit blew up meteorically in a very short period of time. People realized the, like, formula to his content, the fact there was no heart, truthfulness, or desire to, like, advocate for anything there, just complaining about insert woke thing to make money, and he fell off. And a new person came to take his place, and that was the Quartering, and now the Quartering's falling off massively. His views are down quite significantly, as is his subgrowth. And people like Nerdrotic, Mauler, Geeks and Gamers, and whatnot have taken his place to an extent, but even they are falling off.
In that department. The channel Latinoslant offers, as the name suggests, a Latino perspective on popular culture and discourse, and they've made a very interesting video in response to the Nerdrotic Daily piece we've been talking about.
The family is from, in Blue Beetle, is from Mexico. They are used to tacos. La abuela is making tacos all the time. And they have this joint that does proper tacos. And Jaime comes back to his city. First thing is, let's go for tacos, because that's the comfort food. Exactly like my best friend comes to Ecuador.
Tacos are also, like, really fucking easy to make. Like, I know they went out to eat them at a restaurant, but as far as, like, having them as, like, a general, like, family comfort food is not uncommon, because it's really easy and quick to make, but they're really good. Like, you literally season and cook up some beef, typically beef, like beef tacos are the best, I don't care what anyone says, in a pan. You get some tortillas, maybe, like, put them in a pan to, like, heat them up and get them nice and toasted. Depends on who likes them toasted and who likes them cold and untoasted. And from there, it's literally all cold ingredients. Tomato, cheese, lettuce, seasonings, like garlic, or not garlic, onions, like whatever else you might put on there, like salsa even. Some people put on their tacos. Like, it's all, like, a very easy thing to put together, but it's fucking amazing. Like, you bring your family out a big fucking tray of tacos and everyone's happy, and it might only take you like 30 minutes to make. So yeah, if you've got to make food for your family and you don't want to spend all night slaving over, like, the stove in the kitchen, then tacos aren't a bad option. So yeah, warning, this segment will make you hungry. Yes, I'm already quite hungry. I am desperately craving tacos right now. I cannot stop talking about them.
let's go for a chaulafar.
It's important to note that these are not people like me, people who already had a problem with Friday Night Tights before the controversy. No, they actually like this podcast, and I gather Paulie from Latino Slant is friends with Nerdrotic Gary, so this is emphatically not a hit piece. It is, in my opinion, extremely generous. Yet, it's full of moments like this.
The name of his truck is Taco!
What's wrong with that, bro?
Actually, the name of my truck has a taco in it. I'm gonna call it a taco.
This is another thing where you just don't understand, homie, is that we have nicknames for everything. It's even in the film. He's like, I'm calling my machine Trampoline. When you create something cool, you name it yourself. That's what we do.
That's what we do.
I mean, of the characters I got the most crap was George Lopez's character. And I loved his character.
I have opinions about the uncle.
Yeah.
I have a ton of opinions because that's
Give
the
us
kind
one.
of guy...
Give us one.
Okay, that's the kind of guy that I hang out with, and he's the kind of guy that I am.
There's plenty more than that in the video, so go check it out if you fancy. It's linked in the description. Suffice it to say, though, that responses like Latino Slants illustrate...
The funny thing as well is that these guys are pandering to... Like, they're pandering by calling Blue Beetle racist. They're trying to pander to the least woke demographic and, like, that's not white in America. Latinos are the least woke demographic in America that isn't white. And they're like, these conservatives are trying to virtue signal to them while simultaneously their friends who are Latino are responding like, dog, you're doing the most to try to, like, you're going so far to try to accuse this movie of being racist for its representation of, like, Latino people, that you've literally crossed into, like, derangement over the most basic common shit.
Very clearly how incorrect.
Like, they tried to do the virtue signaling, actually the woke people are racist here, and their friends who are, like, their friend, at least, who is Mexican, made a response video to say, yeah, these guys are like, no, the movie wasn't right. What are you talking about? What? No, like, Mexican families love tacos. Like, they're super easy, like, go-to comfort food. Wait, what? No, like, no, we name everything. If you make a thing, you're naming that motherfucker. Like, their response is, you're going overboard with trying to virtue signal to a group of anti-woke YouTubers trying to call a movie racist while also trying to call it woke. It is the most hilariously, like, wimbly-wombly line of argumentation. It's hard to follow if you aren't here for it all.
A lot of these comments and criticisms are, and how true the film rung for a lot of viewers nearer the subject matter. At one point in that video, Paulie calls Blue Beetles the best portrayal of a US Latino family he's seen in a while. At another, he wonders why Nerdrotic didn't invite him on to discuss the film. Hold on to that. But despite all this, that confidently inaccurate opening salvo allows the Friday Night Tights gang to proceed with the idea that Blue Beetle is racist, is itself trafficking in stereotypes. Yes, these guys...
Mexicans are sneaky, dude. Come on.
Okay. Guys, I feel like I should mention this, by the way, because we've got, like, the two, like, pick-me anti-SJW girls in the bottom there. So, you know, it's good to have a few women there to make it not seem like a sausage fest of white dudes complaining about wokeness or whatever. So, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an insight into my thought process when I was a reactionary, okay? This is why so many of these female content creators in this space are so successful doing, like, right-wing chud content. If you are a 17-year-old, 16, 15, 14-year-old white boy who's a bit misogynistic, you don't want your misogyny challenged. Having your misogyny challenged hurts your ego, and it just, like, supplants you, or, like, cements you further into that shit. It's very rare that challenging one of these, like, someone in that position's, like, beliefs is going to do anything. It just kind of, like, makes them more stubborn. However, what those people want more than anything is to have their shitty opinions validated. If they can have their misogynistic opinions validated by a woman, they will prefer that over having them validated by a man any day. Misogynistic dudes would just rather have a woman tell them their misogyny is valid than a dude tell them. Because it sounds like, oh wow, there's a woman telling me this shit is true? Like, it's not just all lefty women out there telling me I'm a piece of shit loser for being misogynistic. There are women out there, hell, even attractive women, who would actually agree with my positions and think I'm based for it? There is a massive industry for being a woman and making your entire genre, your entire shtick, marketing yourself as a misogynist, and that validates misogynistic men's opinions. The same goes for if you're a black conservative. White racists, like pseudo-racist whites, like not like the literally going to Klan rallies and burning crosses, but like the, you know, they say they're not racist and they've got black friends, but they love to say the N-word all the time. They're against like black representation in media. They call everything woke, like that kind of guy. They would rather have a black person tell them they're not really racist for believing racist things than a white person. Because it, like, you know, there's only so much argumentation a white person can make for how these positions aren't racist. But if a black person makes that argument, now you've got the argument of, oh, a black person said that? I'm definitely not racist for believing it now. One of my favorite examples of this thought process is the entire comment section of this cringe-ass Morgan Freeman quote. Obviously, Blair White's a good example. So this is like an old-ass clip of Morgan Freeman that conservatives, such as this channel here, prop up as how, like, acknowledging racism is bad and actually gives racism power. Prepare for the worst quote you have ever heard on any social issue ever.
Month you find ridiculous.
Why? You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month?
Every month.
Well, come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay. Which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh. Why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman. You're
black.
So the epic politics understander Morgan Freeman says, don't talk about the problem of racism or even acknowledge race. Be completely race blind and the problem will go away. Yeah, so I have a feeling that if you ask Morgan Freeman how he feels about that quote today, he probably wouldn't agree. But here's the thing. A famous, well-known black man who is widely well-respected by most of society, because he's a famous actor, said, don't talk about racism, that gives it power. Conservatives have used this quote for a very long time. The fact that Morgan Freeman said it to back this up. Let's read the comments section. Quote, stop talking about it. Best words ever said on the subject. I love that man. One of my favorite actors. Such a smart guy. Morgan Freeman's a national treasure. More people need to see this. Morgan Freeman is definitely one of the finest men on the planet. I respect this man so much for this. Hardcore truth. Quote, ridiculous is the perfect word. Even when he is upset, he meets people where they are. He is all love. Morgan Freeman woke up and declared war. He suffers no fools, straight up. I got so much respect for Morgan Freeman. He's an absolute legend, nothing but respect. One of my favorite things is like person says something conservatives agree with, massive dick riding circle jerk in the comments section. Like the biggest like glazer fest you've ever seen. Dicks down throats and up asses, riding hard, riding till completion. It's one of the most biggest commonalities you see in the comment section of posts like that.
Saying that.
All of those comments translate to he's one of the good ones, by the way. Yeah. Good analysis, Princess Lose-A-Lot.
They go on to support that claim by leveraging this video's other main problem, piss-poor comprehension skills. That's really the best way to sum it up. For example, I'm thinking of the point Chrissy Mayer tries to make, that Blue Beetle is racist because there's a scene where a slick, professionally dressed Jaime is mistakenly directed to the deliveries entrance of a big corporate building, the implication being that the receptionist makes this blunder because of Jaime's race, i.e. because she's racist. And this wouldn't happen in reality. A receptionist wouldn't just be racist like this.
And the receptionist looks at this guy with his hair, his hair combed, jacket and tie, and goes, deliveries are downstairs, which would never fucking happen. You would never
happen. Wow, okay.
Say that. It's just like intentionally racist. Like, oh, because this guy is tan,
okay, I saw a video on YouTube the other day where, like, a guy he was a black man who worked at a store in a random plaza of like stores, and he was going out to the parking lot to go to his car, or to go to his bicycle, not his bicycle, his motorcycle, his bike. And his wife had actually pulled in to the same parking lot to go grocery shopping at the store next door and say, like, what's up? You know, hi, what's going on? And like say hello to him as he's going out of work, and they would like drive home and, you know, meet at home, right? Racist Karen sees him go from his motorcycle to his wife's car, calls the police and reports it as a suspicious-looking man is looking at cars. I think he's casing them to rob them. Cops show up. They don't ask him a single question other than, I'd like to see your ID. He says, am I under arrest? They say, no, we'd just like to see your ID, and we want to know what's going on. We got a call about some suspicious behavior, and you match the description. He says, well, unless I'm under arrest or you suspect me of a crime and you tell me so, I don't need to provide you my ID. I know my rights. You should not argue with cops like this. He probably could have gotten out of it a lot faster if he just showed his ID, said, oh, yeah, it's my bike. My wife's inside. Am I under arrest? I'm under arrest? I'm not under arrest? Can I leave? Okay, I can't leave, so I'm under arrest. Well, no, if I can't leave, I'm under arrest. I'd like a lawyer. I'm not saying anything further till I have my lawyer. And that's how it would go in that case. But probably if he just showed his ID and went on with it, it probably would have been fine. You always shut the fuck up when dealing with the cops. But he did not, and as much as it's not, like, his fault at all, it's the cops' fault, you shouldn't argue with the cops. And what happens when you argue with the cops happened. They immediately say, put your hands behind your back, and they say they're going to put the cuffs on him and he's under arrest. Simply for arguing back and saying, I know my rights, and I'm not doing anything here. You have to, you have to actually suspect me of something. They tell him to turn around and put the cuffs on. He asks, am I under arrest? They say, no. We just want to ask you questions. If you're being put in handcuffs, you are under arrest. If they say you can't leave, you are under arrest. You invoke the Fifth. You ask for a lawyer. You refuse to say anything else. At that point, if they really want to get you, they'll take you to the office. If they know that, like, this is just you know your rights and that there's nothing they're going to get out of you, they'll probably leave at that point and say, all right, fine, you're free to go. But if not, you go through with it. You go to get your lawyer. You don't say a damn word, and you go through the legal process. You will never win a legal argument with a cop in the street. It is for court only. That is to be solved in court with your lawyer. It is not an argument to be had in the street. You do very basic questions of, am I free to leave? Am I under arrest? If they say you're not under arrest but still don't let you leave, consider it being under arrest, invoke the Fifth, refuse to speak, get a lawyer. Anyway, with all that aside, he proceeds to be tackled to the ground because he responded to put your hands behind your back with a question. So he's tackled to the ground, repeatedly punched and kicked by the officer, and then tased until his hands are behind his back and they cuff him. His wife is now at this point outside screaming, please stop, that's my husband, that was our car. The cop then goes and questions the lady, the lady who called the police, the Karen. The Karen's, like, watching all this go down and, like, cheering it on and all that. She's watching. She's all in favor of what's happening. It's very clear she's a racist who, like, is very happy to see this innocent black man be getting beaten by a cop. She probably knew he was innocent, just based off of her demeanor, because she's, like, actively goading the cop when the cop stops to question her, and the wife is there, like, confirming in this lady's earshot that car is hers and that he wasn't stealing anything. She continues to answer the cop's questions, trying to incriminate the guy. No, like, the idea that a racist white woman might be racist towards a non-white man is something I have witnessed numerous times on the internet and in real life.
And has no deliveries. Clearly he's here for deliveries. It was really kind of unbelievable the way they would sort of force the racism in.
I'm not going to do the thing where I suggest that moments of bizarre, random racism like this, moments almost more absurd than offensive, do indeed happen, that yes,
once again, I don't care how much you hate cops, you do every single thing they ask you to do, as if your life is on the line, because it very well may be. If you're being unlawfully detained, if they're planting evidence on your vehicle, whatever it may be, you take it up with your lawyer, don't say a word, don't fight. You have no legal authority to defend yourself. Oh my god. Holy fuck. Guys, the other day, I was looking at the comment section of it might have been that video I described earlier. One of the comments was a guy clearly a conservative 14-year-old or 15-year-old libertarian or some shit saying, you have the right to defend yourself even in this situation. And all the top replies, or at least many of the top replies, are like, rightfully so. No, you don't. You do not have the right to defend yourself even against deadly force used by a cop. You will go to jail for assault against an officer. You cannot defend yourself. Unless you are guaranteed going to die if you don't defend yourself, and you'd rather take prison time over death, and you know that's the only choice, that's the only time you should defend yourself against a cop, is when the only alternative is death. And sometimes that's the case. There are cases, no matter how much of a cop glazer you want to be, there are cases where bad cops decide they want to kill you because they think you're the bad guy, and they falsely assumed it. You match the ID of a suspect, maybe your vehicle does, and they have the decision of open firing right away.
People in majority white spheres can sometimes get away with blatant racism for far longer than you'd expect. No, instead, I'm gonna tell you that I watched Love, Rosie the other day. Stay with me here. Love, Rosie is a rom-com, and as rom-coms go, it's a fairly grounded one, naturalistic, realistic. And yet, at one point, as our protagonist finds herself in the hospital with an intimate health scare and Rosie is confused by the doctor's line of questioning, we get this exchange.
Is it, front, bottom, or back?
What do you think I am?
Sorry, I wasn't suggesting you're a slag or anything.
No doctor would say this in reality. A doctor wouldn't just be misogynistic like this, right? But that scene didn't lead any critics to label the film as sexist. So what's going on here? Well, it isn't reality. It's a film. At this moment, Love, Rosie wants us to get inside the protagonist's head. She's feeling horribly self-conscious and regretting deeply the choices and events that got her to this point, so the film heightens reality a little at this moment. Has something happen? Has someone say a line that they wouldn't typically say if this situation were mirrored in the real world? Because doing so allows that idea to come across nice and clear. In that Blue Beetle scene, Jaime's swimming against the current. He's just been fired from a custodial gig for speaking out against mistreatment, for being a person instead of a glorified Roomba, but he's tried to make lemonade out of those lemons, got in contact with Jenny Gord, the person he stuck up for, he's badgered her about a non-committal job offer she'd made, and he's turned up to the HQ of a company that he'd not managed to get a job at the standard way. He's swimming against the current, that current being the near-invisible set of tricky circumstances that had resulted from his and his family's material situation. Jaime's somewhere the current doesn't want him to be. He's in Olympus, trying to steal fire from the gods. He's not really supposed to be there. He only is because of a glitch in the corporate machinery. The millionaire's compassion. Blue Beetle doesn't have the receptionist direct Jaime to the delivery entrance because the filmmakers thought that's what always happens when sharply dressed Latinos rock up at corporate offices, and it doesn't have it happen because the filmmakers think white people are all racist and evil. Blue Beetle heightens this moment, has this receptionist say something unlikely but entirely possible to make that point again, and to have Jaime refute that point again, to look white corporate indifference dead in the eye and say, no, that's not why I'm here. That's the point of this moment. It's not subtle, it's not hugely important even to the film, it's just a little moment making a little point, which isn't racist, and in arguing otherwise, the mayors of the world are simply revealing their own cluelessness as to the relationship between realism and cinema like this. Films
I feel like here's a good point to stop and let you guys watch the rest of Pillar of Garbage's video on its own. I feel like we've seen the strongest arguments, if you can even call them that we're going to hear from the Chud Spear. And from here, it's just going to be, not Nerdrotic, it's just going to be Pillar of Garbage debunking factual lies about what happens in the movie or doesn't happen in the movie being made by these people, because that's all they do. So if you want to see the rest, go check it out, because this channel is fantastic and does some of the best chud grifter content out there, but mostly does media analysis and review. And then on top of that, does media analysis and review of people who can't do media analysis and review and shoehorn their right-wing politics into what they call media analysis and review. I like his channel. I like it a lot. You should really check it out. And I feel like this video was a good sort of base to start a lot of conversations off of. I liked reacting to it. It was good.